nice and dry. I'm going to stay with my number 2, and all I did was add a little bit of water to the dark mixture, a lot of water, to the dark mixture that we had been using. I'm going to just pick that up. This is the color that we're going to use as a glaze, and that's going to unify everything. Now he's pretty orangey up here, so that's a good thing. That's what we want. And you can see some of the value in the background is staying put. We can bring that over to the highlight a little bit more if we need to. This is just wet on dry. We're not wetting the paper first. It's just a glaze. And it's just going to unify all of his feather marks so he doesn't look quite so drastic like he does right now. And this is softening everything in. I can just see it doing its job. I want to go over the whole face here. Leave the highlights, of course. But the light values underneath are going to shine through, and that's what we want. I am going to go over this area one more time too, just to darken that again. Okay, so we got the face darkened. Now let's go on to his body. I'm going to go up in size. Make sure you create enough paint that you can carry it throughout the head and the body, which I think I have enough here, hopefully. Okay, so we're going to start on this side. Keep it out of my hands, out of it. Stay away from your whites. And you can apply this just like you would a glaze on a petal. Go in the direction that the feathers are going. Keeps it all unified. And then when this is on there and dried, we can take a look to see if we need to add any more line work or not at that point. Going around that highlight over there. You don't want to miss any areas because it'll look real blotchy if you do, so you want to be sure and go over everything. You can even go over this brownish area down here. And you want to be sure and go over all your streaks because that's going to soften those in and blend them in together and make it look unified. And I think what he's going to need, well, we'll see once he's dry. We might even want to go to a mid-value, but we'll see. I'm going to dry him, and I will be right back with you. Okay, he's nice and dry and cool. We're going to let that rest because that's still Even after I dried it with my hairdryer, still feels wet to me, so we're going to leave that section alone. We will come back, probably add in that mid value I was talking about. But now, since this hasn't gotten wet at all yet today, we're going to go ahead, take my erasing tool, and get that off of there. Okay, so now, first thing we can do is go ahead and add that brownish area in on the bottom of those feathers there, just to soften it into the white. Bring it back into the darker tone there. I'm going to leave some of that white there, just like we did up here. Okay, now, down here, we've got quite a bit of that red on my palette, so I don't want to lose it. What I'm going to do is make it more brown, because these feathers are much darker than any other part of his body, so those feathers need to go brown. I just added some orange into it. I'm adding in burnt umber, just a touch at a time, blending it in. I don't want it to go too dark too quick. But that's pretty dark over there, so okay, good. We got a nice brown tone. And let me show you that color so you have an idea of what I'm talking about here. It's more of a brown color. So we're going to do that. And we're going to lay in those feathers. And then we're going to dry it and see if we need to darken them at all. I'm up to a number 4. I'm going to load my brush, bring it to a point, bring that up so you can see what I'm doing. Now, the one on the left here, it actually starts underneath the branch and comes down like this. It's a little bit more see-through over here, but that's all the same feather. And then it goes down and down and down with all the different feather strokes. So that's where we're going to start. It's right up in here. Picking up more paint. We're going to create the shape of the feather first. Now this doesn't have to be softened, and this is wet on dry. These are nice hard straight lines. It's just basically filling it in. But then I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm going to go to a little bit more of an orangey red on this edge, because it lightens up right there. And it even lightens up over some of this white. Yeah, looks like you can see me. I'm just making sure. But there's also a line of that light right on the outside of that feather, right down here. So it's almost like the inside of that feather has a highlight. And this is going to help soften your mask into the background and so forth too, so it doesn't look so stark white. And I'm just running that same color, that light color that we were using, right down the outside edge. Right down to the bottom of where that feather is, stops, and then we'll bring it over like that. Alright, we got our first feather in. Now, I'm going to kind of jump around here because I don't want these feathers to run together. Now, the next feather that I plan on putting in is this dark one right down. There's one that's going to come on top of it and one that's going to come on top of it this way, but down here and up there it's pretty dark. So I'm going to, I keep doing this with my regular brush and I shouldn't, so I'm going to ruin it. So I'm putting in a darker value. Red to begin with, which is straight alizarin crimson. I'm adding in some of the blue. It's going to turn it a little bit more purple, which is dark, and then neutral tint, which will darken it even more. You don't want to put black in because that's going to deaden it, and you don't want to do that. And I'm adding a little bit more orange in there. Yep, that's a good value. Let me show you what we're doing here. See how much darker that value is compared to the one that we just laid down? Okay. I think that'll be the darkest one though. Okay, so now I'm going to clean out that alizarin crimson that I had picked up, which I shouldn't have. Alright. And creating a little bit more paint here. There we go. Okay, now we're going to go again right down the center. It's far enough away from that one that that's going to dry, which is good. Roll my brush to a point. I'm going to start right here in the center, and you can kind of see through mine, I've got a mark right there, and that's where you want to start, is right to the right of that mark. And then this becomes fairly thin. See how nice and brown that tone is? That's what you want here. Right down the center, it's fairly thin. And then it widens out like this. And it does come to a point right down at the bottom. So check your photograph, study your photograph, make sure you're following. I mean, if you have something you want to change on your photograph, go ahead and do it. I mean, we're not painting a photograph, we're painting a painting. So if you feel you want to change something, do it. It's your painting. Okay, we got that nice dark one in there. Now, we're going to go back to this side, and it's going to be fairly dark and then lighter on the edge, just like the first one we did. So I clean my brush, going back to the first original color. Okay, I'm back. I have to apologize. My camera decided to take a break there while we were doing feathers down below. So we're going to start to do that again here. It'll be just a moment as I get the color mixed. Okay, so we're going to continue on this side and bring that down. And this is the feather that we're doing, is this outside feather. It doesn't come right up to the edge because a lot of that is going to stay somewhat his color up there. And we've got it in the white right at the moment, but that's okay. Okay, now we're going to do some of the, let's do some of the in-between colors over here. Add just a little bit more of that ultramarine blue to that to darken it a little bit. Okay, so we're going to, it's almost like it skips a little bit and leaves that reddish orange show through, and then we'll do some of these underneath ones. Got the real dark one in, so we'll skip that spot. I'm going to leave a space in between so you can tell that they're feathers, which is always a good thing. Make sure you can see me here. There we go. All I'm doing is putting this in. It's wet on dry, but all the way around is going to have that harsh line, so we're not going to worry about softening the edges here, because we want them to be distinct. Okay, I'm just going to continue. Just looking to see where these start. Keeping that space in between. And then if we need to darken these or whatever, once this portion's dry, we can. We do need to darken his face a little bit more too. That needs to be darkened. I did go ahead and darken his eyes one more time, because it needed that. Okay, we're getting there. I'm going to jump over to this side, leave a space in between so you can see where the feathers are separated. And we got one more in here. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. And then we can come back to it and do some line work too, because that'll create quite a bit of the feathery look as well.